In this video, we're going to look at how we can use standard form and convert numbers into standard form and out of standard form. Standard form can be a useful way of writing down very large numbers and very small numbers. So we're going to start with this number and we're going to write it in standard form. What you've got to do to write a number in standard form is to look at the number you've got, ignore the noughts at the end for the time being, as long as they're just at the end. If there's a naught between the 5 and the 6, I wouldn't ignore that one. But noughts at the end I could ignore. So I've got a 5 and a 6. Now I've got to put a decimal point into that number to make it between 1 and 10. So I'll put my decimal point in there. It becomes 5.6. I now always write down times by 10. And I write a power up here. And that power is how many positions the decimal point has moved from the starting number to the number I've got here. Now originally the decimal point must have been here at the end. It wasn't written in, but that's where it must have been. So I've moved this decimal point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times because I put it in between the 5 and the 6. So I will put that up there. So in standard form, this number here, which is 560,000, is 5.6 times 10 to the power of 5. If I do another one, 37020000. Now, let's try and work out what that number is. It's often useful to come back from the end, putting commas in. So these are the millions. That's 370,200,000. If I'm writing it in standard form, I ignore noughts at the end and I write down what else I've got, which is 3702. And I've got to make this number a decimal number between 0 and 10. Sorry, between 1 and 10. So I'll put my decimal point in there, 3.702. The decimal point must have been here to start with, even though we didn't bother writing it down. So it's moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. So after my times by 10, which I always write in, I'll put a power of 8. And that's how you do standard form with numbers like that. We'll just do one more. We'll do 56.2. Now it's not a particularly big number, but it can still be done in standard form. Remember, the first thing you've got to do is write this number down, ignoring any noughts at the end. Well, there aren't any in this case. But you've got to make the number between 1 and 10 by putting a point in. So it becomes 5.62. Then you always put your times by 10 in. And here I've moved the decimal point one place. So I put a 1 up there. So that would be the same as 5.62 times 10 to the power of 1. Sometimes you can have numbers which are very small. Numbers which are less than 1, sort of 0 point something numbers. So here's one, 0.00043. Now what we do here is very similar to what we've been doing so far, but with one important difference. We ignore noughts at the beginning, or at the end if there were any there, and we write this number down so that it's between 1 and 10. So I change it to 4.3. Then I write down my times by 10. Now I've moved the decimal point 1, 2, 3, 4 places. So I put a 4 up there, but that's not where I finish. If you notice, this time the arrow has gone the other direction. I've gone left to right, whereas in the other questions I went right to left. To show it's a 0 point number, to show I went the other way, I put a minus in front of that power. So, let's go through that again. If it's a 0 point something number, you'll always have a minus up here. So if we look at another one, 0.0000203, I have to change the number to a number between 1 and 10. I ignore noughts at the beginning, so I'll have 2.03. That nought I've got to include. It's not at the beginning or the end. I write down my times by 10, and I move that decimal point 1, 2, 3, 4 places. It ended up there. I put my 4 in, but because it's a 0 point number, I put a minus in. And it's only for 0 point numbers that you do put those minuses in. So that's shown you how you get numbers into standard form. We also need to see how to get them back out of standard form. So if you were given the number 3.72 times 10 to the power of 5, write down your 3, your 7 and your 2. Now you've got to move this decimal point 5 times. You don't just stick 5 noughts on the end. You've got to move the decimal point 5 times. Get started there, then move it once, it will go there. Move it twice, it will go there. Now I've got to put noughts in. Move it 3 times, it would go there. 4 times, it would go there. 5 times, it would go there. So let's just see. I've moved that decimal point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So that's my answer. 372,000, or 372,000. The mistake people make is just stick 5 noughts on the end. That's not what you do. It's moving the decimal point. So if I look at another one, 1.308 times 10 to the 8. I write down my 1308. My decimal point started here. I've got to move it 8 times. Move it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. Let's just check. I've moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times to go there. So that's my answer. 1308, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Make sure you don't leave all these decimal points in. And then if you want to put the commas in from the back in groups of 3, you can do. So that number was 130,800,000. Let's look at some other examples. 1.39 times by 10 to the minus 5. Now this is a minus power. What you should do straight away is realise if it's a minus power, it's a 0 point something number. Because that's what we had before. A minus power is a 0 point something number. The easiest way to do these is to say this. This number here, whatever it is, will be the 5th thing after the decimal point. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I have my 139. And if you want to check, the decimal point started out here, and I've moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So that's my answer. So I'll go through that again. The easy way of doing these, once you spot there's a minus power up there, is you start off 0 point, and then that 1 will be the 5th number after the decimal point. So you need 4 noughts, and then that 1 is the 5th thing after the point, and you write the rest of your number down. So if we had another one, if I had 2.543 times 10 to the minus 1, this 2, because of the minus sign, well I know it's a 0 point, this 2 will have to be the first thing after the decimal point. So then I can write the rest of my number down. The minus meant it was a 0 point. The 1 meant the 2 was in position 1 after the decimal point. And one final one, 4 times by 10 to the minus 3. The minus means it's a 0 point. The 3 means this number here is in position number 3. 1, 2, 3. So you fill the empty spaces with zeros, but the 4 is the 3rd thing after the decimal point.